At the end of last month, a large leak of partial source code and various assets from the late SNES and early Ultra 64 era of development found its way from some long-forgotten Nintendo server to the open internet for all to see. Major gaming YouTube channels have probably covered this mega leak to death, but I still wanted to give it my own spin. I'd like to go over some of the major findings found within the several gigabytes of partial source code, uncompiled ROMs and other pieces of development history. How do these discoveries link to pre-release coverage at the time? There was a very specific small period of time between 1996 and pre-E3 1998 where The Legend of Zelda, The Ocarina of Time wasn't really presented entirely as the same game that we would finally play. Instead, the fourth mainline Legend of Zelda title was simply known as Zelda 64, and it appeared to have quite a few differences. Whether Zelda 64 was a remake of the original Zelda, NES, game, or an ever-changing experience as the team got their footing, the foundations of what they built would become the Ocarina of Time. Beta elements from this era of development have long been sought after and have launched many fan recreation efforts, suppose Triforce Game Shark cores, and even a couple of well-hidden relics from development hidden within the final Ocarina ROM. Found within the Nintendo Giga leak were map files from the development of Ocarina of Time. Specifically a beta room which was used in early footage before the E3 reveal of the Ocarina of Time. An intrepid modern took it upon themselves to mod back in the newly found alpha/beta room. In terms of content, of course it is light, but it is still neat to step back in time and be able to play a simulacrum of what pre-release Ocarina of Time may have been like. Now if only we could get a recreation of the pre-beta force that was shown in 1997. With a focus on pre-Ocarina of Time, Zelda 64, thanks to the Giga leak, the debate of whether or not Ura Zelda was an original game, with its own dungeons, enemies and systems, or was it an expansion to Ocarina of Time, which is exactly what we got with Master Quest. To try and put this debate to rest, I went back and dug up interviews with Shigeru Miyamoto in 1998 where he describes Ura Zelda as a second quest. Q. Will there be a 64DD Zelda or an add-on? Miyamoto. Don't know if add-on is the right terminology. For the 64DD, we are working on a Zelda game, which we call Ura Zelda, where you first play the initial disc version of Zelda. After finishing everything, you can enter into the world, into the basic design of the same. This sort of Ura Zelda is now in the works for the 64DD. Ocarina of Time has been designed with the disk drive system in mind, Mr. Miyamoto told IGN64. More specifically, if you connect Zelda with the disk drive, an icon will appear on screen, announcing Ura Zelda, or another Zelda. There were several ideas that could not incorporate in the current game, because of the time shortage and other reasons. In the future, want some new areas and new dungeons to be available for players who have already finished Ocarina of Time, where they will find new challenges. While the prospect of new adventures and dungeons sounds intriguing, even Mr. Miyamoto is still unsure about the future of the disk drive add-on which would unlock the new quests. That about wraps up my discussion of Zelda 64's early development, or what we know of it at least. The findings of the pre-Ocarina of Time development room in the Giga leak files, and why we'll never find an Ura Zelda ROM hidden on some long-forgotten Nintendo server. What do you think about the pre-Ocarina of Time, Zelda 64? Let me know in the comments.